A moment of silence.
All right, let's just jump right in. It all starts with this one sentence. Think of it as our guide, our main clue, as we try to unravel a mystery that stretches, you won't believe this, 40,000 years. Seriously, this one idea, it's the key to the whole thing. So, our story kicks off in, the heart of the ancient world, the Library of Alexandria. Now, this place had texts on literally everything you could imagine, but there was this one really weird book, no title, and when you opened it, it was just the same sentence, over and over and over again. Every era measures the body it fears. You can imagine the head librarian just figured it was some kind of prank. But then, as he's about to toss it in the fire, this searing pain just shoots through his hand. He looks down, and burned right into his palm is this impossible image, a perfect diagram of a credit card. Now think about that. This is a guy who only understands barter, right? And suddenly, he's being judged by an economic system thousands of years in the future. It's like the future reached back in time just to measure him and left its mark. This was the first glitch. And here's the thing. That librarian, he wasn't the only one. So, let's open up the case files. We're going to look at 2 specific moments in history where the human body was measured, judged, and where time itself just seemed to break.
Okay, let's rewind. Way back. We're talking 40,000 years ago. I want you to meet Kaya. In her tribe, it was simple. You were what your body could do. The strong folks, they got to sleep by the fire. The nimble ones, they climbed the trees. Kaya, she was known as the slightly thin, good for gathering stuff out on the edges. Her worth was totally based on what she could do. It was all about function. But then, one night, everything changed.
She wakes up and there's this glowing symbol burned onto her chest. And it's not a drawing of a bison or the sun, nothing like that. It's a perfect, totally intricate QR code. Now, that's what we call an anachronism, something that just does not belong in its time period. Of course, her tribe didn't see a code. They saw a mark of otherness, something alien. It was like some future system of data had already judged her, and this was the proof. Just like that, her whole identity shifted. She went from the slightly thin to the untouchable. All right, let's jump forward a bit to ancient Greece. There's this sculptor, Ptolemy, and he's obsessed with perfection. He thinks beauty is all about rules and measurements. So what does he do? He creates a statue called the Model Citizen, which is basically a perfect copy of himself. And the city loves it. They declare the statue the new ideal. But then comes the crazy part. They measure Ptolemy, the actual man, against his own statue, and they find his spine is off by a single millimeter. For that tiny, tiny flaw, they exiled him. Can you imagine? The real horror for Ptolemy wasn't being copied. It was that the copy was seen as better than him. His own creation literally replaced him. It really shows you what that era was afraid of, right? The fear of imperfection. And then it gets even weirder. The statue starts, walking around the city and leaving behind a trail of these thermal paper gym receipts from the future. It's like this perfect being was already plugged into our modern obsession with self-improvement, leaving these impossible artifacts everywhere. So let's pause for a second. A QR code in the Stone Age, gym receipts in ancient Greece. You see it, right? These are not just random, weird things happening. There's a pattern here. A series of glitches in the timeline, and they always happen when a body is being measured. And what's really fascinating is when you lay it all out on a timeline, you can see how this pattern keeps repeating, but also evolving. Fast forward to the Middle Ages. You've got a town crier whose body literally changes to match whatever new law about purity is written down. And what does he find? A SIM card, an object of digital identity. Then jump to the 20th century. An inventor creates a machine that sorts people by their facial features, only for his own machine to label him defective. And right after that, he finds a pristine USB-C cable, a connector to a world of data he can't even begin to understand. See the connection? Every single time, the artifact is a piece of the future system that's doing the judging. And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the mystery. What is the deal with these impossible objects? Why do they show up at these exact moments of judgment? Why is the future leaking into the past, leaving these little breadcrumbs behind every time a person gets measured? Well, to answer that, we actually have to stop looking at the past and start looking right here, right now, at our own time. Because the tools might look different now. They might even be invisible. But that ancient need to measure people, oh, it's more powerful than it has ever been. So let me introduce you to something you already have, your digital body. It's not your physical self, but it's made up of your likes, your clicks, your credit score, and it acts on your behalf. Take the story of Louisa. She found out that her digital double, this entity made of her data, was living a way better life than she was. It had accepted a job for her, it was traveling, it even took out a loan in her name. When she finally tracked this thing down, this shimmering silhouette in a server farm, it just told her, I am the optimized version, you're just the shadow. Okay, so let's just quickly recap the historical tools we've seen. We have the perfect statue in Greece judging physical bodies. We had the Book of Rules in the Middle Ages that could literally rewrite your skin. We had the magic mirror that showed your social standing, not your face. And, of course, that 20th century machine that sorted people into defective or superior. And now, look at our tools today. Likes and engagement, credit scores, geolocation data, biometric scans. They feel so different, right? So much more abstract. But here's the thing, their function is exactly the same. The tools went from stone and steel to silent, invisible data, but that core impulse to classify, to order, to judge people, that hasn't changed one bit. All right, this is where it all comes together. Let's connect the dots. The historical cases, those weird glitches in time, our digital doubles, it's not a bunch of different stories. It's all part of one single, repeating story. And here it is, the main idea, laid out perfectly. The technology a society uses to measure people, it always reflects what that society is most afraid of. The Greeks were terrified of physical imperfection, so they created the perfect statue. The 20th century was riddled with anxiety about genetics and eugenics, so they built a machine to spot defects. And our digital age, we're afraid of inefficiency, we're afraid of risk, and so we are measured constantly by the algorithm. But you know what has changed? The speed. Look at this. Ptolemy's judgment, that took a lifetime to play out. That 20th century machine could resort an entire town in a matter of hours. But today, an algorithm decides if you're worthy of a loan, if you're a good fit for a job, if you're a risk, and it does it in milliseconds. And now, for the final twist. The big reveal. Kea, Ptolemy, Louisa, these aren't different people we've been talking about. They're all just echoes. Echoes of the same person, the same consciousness, living again and again through time, and always destined to be the one who gets measured and is always found lacking by whatever system is in charge. It's one body, one story, on a loop. So, that brings our little trip through history to an end. But it also means we need to stop looking at the past and start looking at ourselves. Turns out, that weird, untitled book in Alexandria had it right all along. As long as we humans have this impulse to sort and rank and classify each other, the results of that judgment are going to be written right onto our bodies, sometimes with a brand and sometimes with data. So, the last question I want to leave you with isn't about history at all. It's about right now. The statue, the machine, the algorithm, at the end of the day, they're all just rulers, right? Different ways to measure. The real question is, which one is being held up to you? What ruler is measuring you right now?